So here's the question. I got this question in a Q&A on Saturday from a fellow YouTuber. Shout out to you, man. You're a homie. Um, what is the worst case scenario for America's future? And I'm going to also, moving forward, talk about how we can avoid it, how we can avoid the worst case scenario. So let's dive into it, man. The worst case scenario is if we don't enact progressive change and rapidly. As I've said over the course of this show and all throughout this pandemic, this is an unprecedented moment. When you're talking about a looming eviction crisis, 28 million people, according to the experts, could be kicked out on their ass in the coming months. That is terrifying. When you're talking about mass unemployment, up to 50 million people have issued an unemployment claim since the pandemic began. Dude, when you're talking about surging unemployment numbers, surging poverty numbers, when you're talking about government abandonment of all oppressed communities. Before the pandemic, 70 to 80% of people were already living paycheck to paycheck. That's the first context you need to understand. Before the pandemic, this was an already unequal, rigged system. There was already mass, widespread income and wealth inequality. You already had 70 to 80% of people living paycheck to paycheck, 500,000 people going bankrupt because they don't have access to health care. You already had a $1.6 trillion student debt crisis. You already had a rigged system, an oppressive system, oppressing all of our communities, black, brown, white, blue, purple. And now it's only gotten worse. This crisis has only exacerbated that. The richest Americans, Amazon, Walmart, they all ran away with trillions of dollars in wealth during this crisis. But you know who didn't? You know where that wealth came from? Us. We lost our jobs. We lost our livelihood. We're losing our lives on the front lines of this crisis. And if we don't do something to balance the scales, and soon, you're already seeing the social unrest happen. That's what I'm saying. You're already seeing the social unrest. You're already seeing the consequences. And that's only going to get worse if real reforms aren't enacted, if we don't begin to balance the scales, because it is starting to get scary. It's starting to get unsustainable. It's been unsustainable, but it's getting even worse. This cannot continue. When they're running away with trillions of dollars in wealth, the government gave them a huge bailout, but gave the people crumbs, gave small businesses crumbs. People aren't going to stand for that. They're not going to take that. That's why there's surges in right-wing populism and left-wing populism for that matter. That's only going to continue, but it's only going to get more radicalized. In my generation, huge percentages of us don't even support capitalism. The majority of us don't support capitalism. We support socialism because we're the product of that rigged system. And now it's only gotten exponentially worse. Imagine an entire generation completely radicalized beyond what I'm calling for, which is just basic social democracy. Beyond that, to land seizure, to collective ownership, potentially be where we go towards, because the Overton window is moving to the left. People are saying enough is enough. I want real change. I want my money back. I want my reparation. I want to be taken care of. My family, I can't afford to feed my family. I can't afford to keep a roof over my head. This is now basic life or death now. It's only gotten exponentially worse, and it was already shit. This is unsustainable, dude. The American empire is starting to crumble, and the only way to keep it from fully crumbling is enacting real progressive reform. That's the worst case scenario. Because if you don't, you will see mass social unrest. You already seen it, and it only get exponentially worse. When you see people coming into the streets, ramming cars into each other, all this hate and vitriol in people's hearts, that stems from the fact that they can't afford to feed their family. That stems from the fact that they can't afford to keep a roof over their head. They can't survive. That's where it stems from. That's when people get angry. That's when people get scared. And that's when people do things. You see that look in the eye. I always talk about this. There's a look in people's eye when they've lost all hope and they have nothing left to lose. And you will see that on a scale you've never seen before here in America, at least in modern history. And that right there is the worst case scenario, because that's when chaos, all hell breaks loose. Whatever comes of that is what comes of that, dude. They're going to burn this motherfucker to the ground. And it could happen very soon. I think within the next 10, 15, 20 years, maybe even sooner, if we don't enact real progressive reform. That's why our movement, this show, and this message is so goddamn important, bro. It's so important, dude. Because if we don't enact these reforms, and if our movement does not gain traction, we're the only thing standing between. We're at a crossroads. We represent the better path. We represent where society must go towards, an egalitarian, equitable society where all have a chance of justice and equal opportunity. Where this could go towards is something very scary. Chaos, failed state, and whatever comes of that's what comes of that. We're at a crossroads now here in this country, dude. It's not a global problem. Obviously, there's a huge income, wealth, inequality across the globe, but the developed world has largely figured it out. But here in America, people are stagnating. People are losing their jobs. They're losing their livelihood. And that's going to get very scary and fast. So this is why this message is so important. We represent a peaceful vehicle that people can plug into and fight for real reforms. That's what we represent. That's what progressives are fighting for. That's why and electing progressive candidates to Congress, electing progressive people into power, sharing this show, sharing these videos, sharing this message, getting other people into this cause and into this movement, out there fighting for progressive change in the streets through protests, through activism, through volunteering, through donating. That's why that's so important, bro. Because if you don't, we're the only thing standing between chaos. You see what I'm saying? We are standing between chaos. So that's the worst case scenario, and I hope we don't get to that point. And I do have hope, man. When I see Bernie Sanders, as I said, man, go out in the 2016 and 2020 campaigns and create this multiracial, multi, just multi-generational coalition where he's just preaching this progressive message, this economic populist message, and he's bringing in the Latino community, bringing in the working class, bringing in all communities behind this message. This old Jewish dude from Vermont, dude, that's powerful. And I have hope that if we become a vehicle that people can plug right into, preaching in this consensus message that all communities can get behind, we can create real change. I have hope. I really do. But I'm telling you, the stakes are high, bro. This worst case scenario, I largely think will happen if we aren't successful. So this is the time to fight and fight now. Share this video, share this message. You elect Green New Deal, progressive champions, so we can add real change. We can save this country from falling off that cliff. Plain and simple, bro. So this was a dope show, man. This was a dope ass show. I had a great time. It was nice and casual for me, man. I was slurring over my words a little bit. I just got my stuff together. I'm trying to get these social media platforms together. Um, as I said, dude, for me, like, I'm not trying to stay on YouTube. I'm not. This is not going to be the future. They are deplatforming. The algorithm is screwing over, like channels like mine. But even bigger channels, when you're talking about secular talk, humanist report, rational national, they're screwing over channels like that, dude, because the algorithm screws over those channels. And I don't think it's I don't know if it's a coordinated effort. I would hope not. I don't think so. To stamp out progressive media. I don't think that's a coordinated effort, but the algorithm certainly screws over progressive media, plain and simple. The outcome remains the same, whether they meant to or not. So for me, it's my job now to share this platform and expand it on other platforms. So whether it be on Rockfin, Patreon, Instagram especially. So y'all follow the boy on Instagram at New Progressive Era. Also follow my personal at Original Drake 14. I might change that tag. I made it when I was like 14. But yeah, man, follow the personals on Instagram. Also follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. We're trying to spread this message and move it to a different platform a little bit. YouTube, I'll still be on YouTube. I'll still be posting, but that's my job right now. I'm trying to expand so we can move on Patreon, Rockfin, maybe moving to Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And also going to be putting out podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So stay tuned for that. So that's what we're trying to do now, man. This is a one-man operation, really, but I also got some people trying to support me. I just got the camera and the green screen, so should be having a nice little setup for y'all moving forward. But yeah, man, I need y'all support. So like and subscribe, share this video any way you can, share this platform, share this message. This is incredibly important, man. This is a crazy moment, and we need voices like mine, voices like yours to be out there fighting for progressive change. So stay empowered, man. Stay inspired and keep fighting the good fight. Till next time, it's been your boy, Drake. Peace.